later for me. Hey guys, my name is Jessie Jennings. Just hit got it, thanks. And I'm a content creator for Plaid, and tonight I'll be teaching you this really fun, super bright painting called Botanical Bends. So if it's your first time at one of our paint nights, welcome. We're so happy to have you. And if you're returning, welcome back. We're glad to see you guys. So this is a really fun one. If you've been keeping up with our paint night lives recently, we've been using the same kit for each one, and that is called Promo FAI. So it's kind of a weird name, but it's a really great selection of paints you can purchase on Michaels.com. And with that kit, you can do all of our Michaels Let's Paint paint nights on Mondays. So each week we use different colors from the kit, but it is always from that Promo FAI kit. So tonight I'm really excited to show you, it's kind of just like the basic colors you'll need for most paintings. But I'm going to show you some really fun colors you can mix with the kit, just to kind of show you guys like how many different options and different paintings you can do with just this one kit, like I said, called Promo FAI. I also want to let you know we have Emma here too, so she'll be here. We're kind of doing it a little different tonight. She's actually sitting next to me. She'll be reading your comments and reading them to me as we go. So if you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and she'll read them to me. I'll try my best to answer them as we paint tonight. And let's go ahead and I'll tell you exactly what supplies I have. So on the original one here, this is a 9x12 canvas. You can see here, I only had an 8x10, so I'm going to be doing a slightly smaller scale, but otherwise, don't worry, it'll be the exact same painting. I've got my palette paper here, which is just some wax-coated paper, if you guys are unfamiliar. Hey, Cricut, if you guys are unfamiliar. So this is really great for putting your paint on, especially for mixing. I feel like it's less waste than using like paper plates and things like that, so I love my palette paper. I've got a water basin here for cleaning my brushes and some paper towels. And then, like I said, I'll be using the Promo FAI kit. And specifically from that kit, I'll be using Violet Pansy, which is just like a nice dark purple color. So if you've got something to substitute that, that's okay. True Blue, which is just, again, like a bright royal blue. So if you've got something similar, that's good. Wicker White, which is just the white we always use. Baby Pink, just like the name. If you've got a light pink, that's great. Our bright pink, of course, that we love to use. Lime Green, which again, just a bright green, just like the name. And then Daffodil Yellow. So if you've got stuff to substitute these, that is totally fine. We're using some pretty standard colors tonight, but like I said, we will be doing some mixing. So feel free to substitute out if you've got something different. Oops, sorry, shaking the table, or anything like that, but don't stress if you don't have the exact colors. And then, of course, we always cite that we use the Craft Smart Variety brush set. And the reason I love that set is because A, it's inexpensive, and B, it comes with a really good variety, just like the title says. So you've got some small rounds in there, you've got some large flats, you've got some medium flats. So the ones we'll be using tonight specifically are our 1/2-inch flat, or maybe a 12 flat, something like that that looks like this one. A larger flat brush, so like a 1-inch flat or a 3/4 inch flat. And then I'll also be using a small liner brush. So this one here is the number 2 liner. I believe that the Craft Smart brush set comes with the number 1 liner, which is great. This one's kind of long. I actually prefer the smaller, like the shorter bristled liner brush. If you have that, that's good. This is just the one that I have here with me tonight. All right, and then of course, as always for our Monday night paint nights, we have our hair dryer because we do try to keep the class in just about an hour. So we'll be drying in between steps, make sure we can kind of keep it cruising. And then a special little ad that we had tonight is our gold paint pens. This is a Craft Smart paint pen. Craft Smart makes excellent paint pens. They're my favorite to use. I always have some of these on hand. I keep like a black, white, and gold at all times, so I love adding them to my paintings. So at the very end, you can see here, we'll be adding some really pretty details with our paint pen. So any questions on supplies?
No, not so far, Jessie. We have a couple questions asking if you don't have a gold paint pen tonight, if you could use gold paint instead.
Great idea. I know a lot of times on Monday nights, we'll use Treasure Gold. So Treasure Gold will work great, but if you just have like some FolkArt Gold Metallic, you've got your liner brush, you are good to go. It might take you a little bit longer just because, instead of drawing it, you'll be painting it, but you'll get the exact same results. So don't stress if you don't have a paint pen. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and get started painting our background. So like I said, we'll be doing some mixing tonight. So I'm hoping to kind of show you guys just a few simple and like really basic colors of craft paint or acrylic paint. You can get these really fun, vibrant colors that we have here. So this really pretty blue in the background, I'm going to show you how to mix that. So what you'll need on your palette is some Wicker White, a little bit of true blue, and some lime green. And with these three colors, we are going to mix this beautiful blue. It's kind of like a warm sky blue background. I'm gonna use my largest brush for this. So it's gonna be mostly white. I'm gonna grab some white and kind of start a new pile here. Oh, I can move into the camera. You guys can't see this. So mostly white. I'm gonna put in a little pile of white here and then a touch of blue. So about that much blue. And then a tinier touch of green. So I'd say it was about 2 parts white to maybe 3 parts white to 1 part blue to like a half part green. We're gonna mix it up and see where that gets us, and we'll kind of adjust from there. We're pretty close. This is a good start for sure. Mix a little more white. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more green to warm it up a little. And then just a touch more blue because it's getting kind of pale. You can see here, now we have a really good likeness to this beautiful, warm sky blue we've got back there. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use this color to just base coat my entire canvas. We're gonna paint the whole thing. And again, I'm using the largest brush I have. This is my 1 inch flat brush or a 3/4 inch, whatever is your biggest flat brush. And you can go ahead and paint the sides too now. We're just gonna base coat the whole thing. And it should just be 1 coat. That's the great thing about FolkArt paints, as you guys know. It has awesome coverage. It is super duper opaque, so we rarely need to do more than 1 coat. Mix a little more as I go. And don't stress if you have to mix more as you go and the color's not exactly right. Just do your best to get it as close as you can, because once you paint those big bright arches over it, you won't notice if it's kind of like slightly different on one side than the other. Just get it as close as you can. How's everybody doing out there, Em?
Good. Everyone's letting us know where they're tuning in from tonight.
Awesome.
It's always fun to see. We have people from Kentucky, and that's the latest one. Let me go back. Missouri, Ohio, California, Chicago, awesome. Florida.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We are in Atlanta here. That's where our Plaid headquarters is based and where we live. And it was getting really warm. We were wearing sandals last weekend, and then on Saturday it snowed. So I'm curious to hear what kind of weather everybody else is getting, because it's been kind of like craziness over here.
Camille's joining us from Barbados.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
Bet it's not snowing there.
Right?
Okay. So I'm just gonna, you can kind of see here, I think I do want to make a couple sort of notes on base coating. You can see I'm just kind of spreading it out to get it nice and even, no brush strokes. When people are base coating something, whether it be a canvas or, you know, craft project you're doing, I think people feel the need to kind of like glob paint on it because they don't want to do multiple coats, which I totally get. I'm kind of an impatient crafter myself. I don't want to do multiple coats, but you really does not take much paint to coat a canvas. So you always want to use the least amount of paint you can in order to have full coverage. So it takes very little. You just want a nice smooth amount. And if you have to do a second coat, not the end of the world. And the reason you don't want to put too much paint on is that A, it'll just take much longer to dry, which if you're impatient isn't going to help you in the long run. But B, if you put way too much paint on, and especially if you try to use a hairdryer to dry it and dry it quickly, it could crack. And so none of us ever want our paint to crack, that's for sure. So it's important to kind of just put the minimal amount of paint. You can see I've got full coverage here on my canvas and I hardly have any paint on there. So right now, guys, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab my hairdryer. I'm gonna put it on the highest air setting, and then I'm gonna toggle between cool and warm until my canvas is totally dry. So I'm gonna do that now. Oh, you hit that button for me, awesome. I'm gonna do that in just a minute. Thanks, Okay, so now it's nice and dry. You never want to paint when you're painting with acrylics, unless you're doing some sort of specific technique. You really want to try to avoid painting wet on wet. And like I said, unless you're like trying to keep it wet and do some blending and that's what you're going for. Something like this, when you're doing the background and you're painting on top of it, if we were to try to go when that was still wet and paint over it, we'd end up just pulling that paint up instead of putting the new paint down. That's why it's important to dry between coats, between steps. Okay, so now, as you can see here in our final painting, we're gonna, of course, follow this one. We're gonna start on our arches, which is a really fun part. Like I said, I'm gonna keep mixing colors, kind of the fun of this class. And so we wanna start with the arch that is in the furthest in the back, of course, because we're gonna be layering them. So that would be this big guy here. So we're gonna start by mixing this pretty teal color. And to do that, we've already got our blue and our green on our palette. So let's go ahead and add a little yellow in case we need that. Just a touch in case you want to pull some of that yellow in to warm it up. So I'm going to use my 1/2 inch flat, just a little bit smaller. And I'm going to grab mostly blue. This is my true blue. And I'm going to grab a little bit of lime green and mix those up. And I have a feeling this is going to be pretty close to the color we're looking for. Let's see. I have a feeling this is going to be just what we need. So you get this really pretty teal color. So of course, you guys, if you're familiar with mixing colors, this is probably going to be a no-brainer for you. But if not, that's okay. This is a really fun class to kind of get started and get an idea of how colors can go together and how you can take really simple colors you already have and make really new, like trendy and fun colors. So we had that really, you know, sort of classic, just royal blue. And then we added some lime green to it and got this beautiful teal color. And of course, you know, teal is kind of a combination of blue and greens. That makes sense for a lot of you, but especially since we used the lime green, it kind of warmed it up a little bit more and made it this like greenish teal color as opposed to just a regular aqua.
And Jessie, what brush are you using right now?
Right now I have a 1/2 inch flat or like a number 10 flat or number 12 flat. Anything like that would be great for this part. So now is where I know people get a little nervous about this kind of thing, but I promise that you can all do and it's going to turn out great. We're going to do a little bit of freehand painting. So if you want to grab a pencil and sort of sketch out your design, I totally understand that. It makes a lot of people a little bit more comfortable, but I'm just going to use my brush because they're just big swoops of shapes and we don't have to worry about using a pencil if we don't have one. So I'm going to pick up some of this new teal color we just mixed onto my brush. And I'm going to start about here. So this is about 1/3 of the way across my canvas from the right. So 2/3, 1/3, 2/3. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to make a mark there so I know where to start my line. And then I'm going to go about, let's say 2 inches from the top right. And I always kind of like to mark out when I'm going to do a big stroke like this, just so I know where to start and when to stop, because it just helps us have a, you know, so we don't kind of go crazy in the middle and lose the shape that we want. So I'm starting at the bottom and I'm going to do a big stroke. Whenever you're doing a straight line like this or trying to do like a nice clean line, the faster you go, the better. If you try to go slow and get a perfect line and you don't have a perfectly steady hand, you can get some wiggly lines, which is fine. If you do have a steady hand, by all means, go nice and slow. But the key to getting a nice, big, swooping, clean line is by going a little bit quickly. So I'll show you what I mean. Start at the bottom and I'm going to pull up and try to meet that dot there. So I'm going to go whoop. And you can see I went kind of quick there. It's a little different than our original. We can kind of change the shape if we want to. Maybe I'll go a little bit higher. There we go. So see, I went kind of quickly and that's how I got that nice smooth curve. If I went slow, I'll show you. If I went slow like that, your brush is going to move and you're not going to be able to keep that exact, you know, trail that you're looking for, and it'll be a little bit wiggly potentially. So you just want to do a nice big sweeping stroke. And since we're not really following any kind of particular shape, whatever sort of swoop you get is perfect. Is just what you want for this painting. You just want a nice arch shape. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to fill in that line a little more. And then we are going to fill in that whole shape with this pretty teal color. You can paint the side with this too if you want to kind of continue the shape across over the side. That'd be really pretty if you're not planning on framing it. I'm gonna do one coat and done again because we're using our FolkArt acrylics, which are super duper opaque.
Patty said, you get what you get.
And you don't pitch a fit. I see we have some Andy Jones students on here tonight. So the way our studio works at Plaid, we have all of our, main content creators on one side, and then Andy and Chris are kind of like on the other side of our room with our digital content creators. So Andy does a lot of his lunch and learns in our room while we're all crafting. So we can all listen to him, and we listen to all his fun catchphrases and all the things he likes to tell his students. And that's when we don't let him forget. That's for sure. Isn't that right, Em?
Absolutely. And I hope I'm saying your name right. Shanice said, cool color.
Yeah, isn't that great? So this is thank you. This is a really fun one because I just think you kind of see you have a project in mind, and then you see one of these kits and you're like, oh, well, it doesn't have this blue that I wanted, or, oh, it doesn't have, the yellow that I like to use. But there's so many different colors you can mix out of these basic colors. So that's why this is kind of a fun class to show you that we just got some super standard colors here, but you can get really funky ones using them.
And you get a lot of those true colors too. You get a really true red and a blue and a yellow, and that way you can really have fun.
I can show you here. I have the full kit actually in front of me. You get an orange. I know it's kind of hard to see. You get your browns that you need. You get a couple or three beautiful reds, your black, your white, the more traditional green, another, really pretty blue. So you get really everything you could possibly want in order to mix any color in the rainbow. Okay, guys, so now I'm going to grab my hair dryer and I'm going to dry this patch right now. Okay, so that's pretty dry. So now what we're going to do is we are going to create this pretty purple outline. And for this one, we're just using this purple that's from the kit. This one is Violet Pansy. So this will kind of give us a break from mixing for a second, but I just really like the true purple color. So we're going to use the 1/2-inch brush and our Violet Pansy, and we're going to do our best to outline the shape we just made. So now, this is a 1/2-inch brush, the one we just used. I'm going to load it up with my Violet Pansy, which is this nice, pretty purple color. And so this is how I like to kind of paint straight lines, or if I'm kind of trying to be more precise with the line that I'm painting. I'll move the canvas to how it is more comfortable in my hand. So it's not really comfortable for me to pull this way. It's more comfortable for me to pull it left to right. So I'm going to turn my canvas and pull it this way. So whenever you're painting at home, maybe a lot of you like to paint on an easel, which is great. I really highly recommend painting on an easel, painting upright. But if not, if you're kind of a person who holds their canvas like this, feel free to move your canvas all around. If it's something feels better to paint, upside down, if you want to pull your brush instead of push your brush, by all means, turn your canvas so that it's more comfortable for you to paint. You don't have to leave it up and down. I try to when I'm teaching the classes, just not to confuse people, but when I'm painting at my desk in the studio, I rarely keep my painting in one place. So now I'm just gonna go right outside this teal line, and I'm gonna follow that line as closely as I can. And I'm using the width of my brush as a guide. So here's the thing about flat brushes. If you push down really hard, you're gonna get your bristles are gonna spread out and you're gonna get a really wide line. But if you just press down ever so gently, just enough to get that paint onto the canvas, you'll get the exact width of your brush. So it's a really easy way to kind of decide, how thick you want lines to be, and then just let your brush do the work. I'm loading my brush as I need more paint.
And while you're finishing that arch, Jessie, I just wanted to tell you this comment, which I thought was so sweet. Vicky said, "This is so much fun. This is the first time we are doing this. I'm doing this with my kiddos. Thank you."
Oh, Vicky, welcome. I'm so glad you joined us, and I'm so glad you're spending time with your kids. Yeah, we are here, guys. In case you didn't know, we are here every single Monday night doing paintings. So we've got lots of different artists to teach, and we all have different styles, which is kind of fun too. So you can kind of tune in for particular styles or techniques that you're looking to learn more about. I teach them, of course. Emma, who's sitting right here with me, she teaches them very frequently. Andy Jones, we just mentioned, is one of our content creators, and he teaches them a lot. His friend Chris Williams teaches them as well. So Kirsten Jones, you've got a ton of teachers who do this Monday night class. So there's definitely something for everyone. So I'm really glad you were able to join us tonight. So I'm gonna let that dry, and we're gonna move on to our pink arches while that dries, so we don't have to keep blow drying in between steps if we can help it. So we did that arch here. So now we're gonna move on to the pink ones because that's not overlapping anything, and it'll give us give this a couple minutes to dry while we work on that. Let's see if I can put this somewhere where you guys can see it a little better. There we go. Yeah, now you can see it. Make sure you can see the paint I'm painting. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab, we're still hanging on to our 1/2 inch flat. I'm gonna put some baby pink on my palette, which is the lighter of our two pinks. And if you don't have baby pink and you just kind of have, you know, your standard colors you usually paint with, grab some white and put a touch of red in there and you'll get something very similar to baby pink. I've also got my bright pink, which is one of my favorite colors from the kit. I love adding pops of this hot pink to my paintings. I just think it's super fun. Okay, so now we're gonna do something really similar to what we just did. We're gonna do our light pink arch. We're gonna dry it and then we're gonna add our hot pink around it. So I'm gonna grab some of my baby pink on my brush, just like we did before. We're gonna try to do a nice quick swoop so we get a really clean, smooth line. Some of you might find it easier to kind of start at the top and pull down to the left and pull down to the right, as opposed to trying to go up and down. So however you do a little practice on maybe on your palette paper and see how it feels most comfortable for you to do, and then just go ahead and do it that way. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try to do the whole thing from all the way around. So I'm start at the bottom. And again, we can mark it out. So I have it slightly lower than this one. So I'm kind of gonna mark it there. I know where I want it to end, or where I want it to peak, I should say. And then I'm gonna have it be kind of start here and end here. About that big is where I want it to be. So now I'm gonna go ahead and go for my arch. I'm gonna try to kind of keep it parallel to the sides best I can. I'm gonna go up, 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 and I'm gonna turn so I can meet that peak that I made. Reload my brush and then pull down, down, down. Trying to keep it, like I said, sort of parallel with the edges of the canvas. Kind of more comfortable for me to pull up. So I'm actually gonna meet myself up there. Okay, and now you can kind of adjust your shape as you'd like. If it's not quite how you want it to be, now's your chance to kind of change the shape a little, using the edge of my brush to kind of guide where I want that paint to go. And then once you like the shape you have, you can go ahead and fill it in. Everybody doing okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Clementina said, "I really love this painting. I like all styles, and this is one of my favorites."
Awesome. Thanks, Clementina. This was a really, really fun one to do. Really simple to learn also. So just like, if you use these few skills, you know, I see all these like super trendy, like arch paintings on Etsy and on Instagram, you know, and just like big, bold areas of color and, you know, small details on top, lots of layering. This is just a really fun and easy way to create some beautiful artwork with a few simple skills. Okay, so now we have that. And that's, if you need to do a second coat, you can feel free, but I think I'm gonna get away with one coat. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to dry that with my hair dryer so we can paint our hot pink frame on that one. Okay, so now we're hanging on to this 1/2 inch again, this 1/2 inch brush. Just like we added this purple frame to our teal arch, we do the same thing with our hot pink around our pink arch. So I start at the bottom left, and I'm gonna, again, use the width of my brush as a guide. If you want to do a thinner arch, you can use a thinner flat brush. A thicker arch, you can use a thicker flat brush. Just let the brush do the work. And I'm gonna follow this all around the edge of my pink arch.
And are you still using a 1/2 inch, Jessie?
Yep, still using the 1/2 inch. We haven't switched brushes yet. We probably won't switch brushes until we move on to our botanical leaves at the end. So still using the 1/2 inch guy. And this may need a second coat. These really bright colors, like almost neon, kind of infamous for being less opaque than some of the more traditional colors. So we may need to do a second coat, but no big deal. This is the first second coat we've had to do. That's pretty good. Just picking the canvas up because it's slightly more comfortable for me to do it this way. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna touch it up slightly, and then I'm gonna grab my hairdryer and dry it. And then, like I said, probably do one more quick coat just to make sure I've got that super, super good coverage. Okay, so now we're gonna do our second coat of the bright pink. Just make sure we have it nice and opaque. There we go. That's really, really good now. Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean my brush off. We're gonna let that one kind of dry while we finish our last arch. So for this one, we're gonna be doing a little bit more mixing. So I'm gonna grab my palette here so you can see it a little better. And I've got some lime green on my palette, but I've kind of contaminated it with my blue and white. So I'm gonna grab some fresh lime green. We're gonna go ahead and probably mix both colors at once. I'm gonna put some fresh lime green on here. And then I've got some Daffodil Yellow. So I'll use that. If you need more Daffodil Yellow, go ahead and add that now. And then for our that's for our lime green color. And then for our orange color here, I've got my yellow and I've got my pink. So I should be good to go with that. So first we're gonna mix our bright, bright green color, which this is a beautiful lime green, but I just think this one is really fun. It's kind of like an acid green almost. It's very funky looking.
And Holly had an interesting question. She says, what do you do with all of the dirty water when you're done?
I usually put it down the drain. So since it's a water-based paint, especially if you clean it right away, it shouldn't hurt your drain at all. I try not to use too much water, so I'm not super wasteful whenever I'm painting to clean my brushes in. But yeah, I just put it right down my, my kitchen sink or my bathroom sink. If I'm in the studio, of course, I use the studio sink.
That's the great thing about acrylic compared to oil painting, right?
Yes, yes. Oil paints are super hard to dispose of. I come from, oops, sorry, it's okay. I come from, my education is in oil painting, and while it's really fun and really beautiful, it is really hard to dispose of. There's a lot of toxic elements to oil painting. It's really confusing to know where to dispose of, your paints and your mediums and your solvents and things like that. But that's kind of the beauty of acrylic paint, is that it is water-based. And so you can just rinse it right away, clean it with soap and water while it's still wet. And it's much safer. Okay, so I've got my lime green here. I'm going to grab some lime green, and I'm going to grab some of my Daffodil Yellow, about a 1-to-1 ratio, and we'll see where that gets us. And again, we're looking for this acid green color. And it's pretty, but I want a little more yellow because I want it to be a little bit brighter.
And while you're mixing that color, Jess, Cricut said she got that brush basin for her birthday last week.
Oh, very cool. Happy birthday,
Happy
Cricut.
Birthday.
Yeah, this is a great one. I love this one. This is just like our standard plaid brush basin, but as Cricut knows, you can't see now because it's so dirty, but it's got this side, it's got like, I don't even know what to call it, like the little bumps in the bottom. So you can kind of like graze your brush against it to really get the paint out. And on this side, it's got 2 different wells. So you could do like clean and, dirty if you're doing watercolor or something like that. And then it's also got these really fun brush holders. So it's a good investment. It's really fun to have in your studio when you're painting. But of course, a mason jar works well too. Okay, so now I'm gonna make sure, I guess it's pretty dry actually. I'm feeling indecisive. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do our last arch, which is the lime green one. And it's gonna be the same thing we've been doing. We've got our new acid green color we'll be using. I'm kind of gonna mark it off where I want the peak to be and then where I want the bottom to be. So I'll say about here is where I want it to start. And then about here is where I want it to end. And then I want it to go up to about here. So now I know where I want my arch to be. Again, we'll do it this time where we start from the top and pull down to kind of show you guys that way too. So I'm gonna start here. I've got my brush vertical, not horizontal, vertical, because I'm gonna pull to the left and I want that flat bristle against my canvas. So we'll pull down to the left and then I'll load my brush again and I will pull down to the right. And then you can clean it up a little now if you want to. Now's the time to kind of change the shape up if you desire. And then we're going to fill it in with this green color. I think we should get away with 1 coat on this one too.
Yeah, I think so.
Just gonna smooth it out with my brush. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to dry this with my hair dryer. Okay, so that's dry enough. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mix our sort of like a tangerine color here. Make sure my brush is nice and clean. I left it in the water basin. Not a good habit. Dry it off. So now I'm actually gonna get some fresh Daffodil Yellow because I have a ton of green in that one. So I'm gonna grab some fresh Daffodil Yellow. And you also need your bright pink, which I already have some of that here, so I won't get more. And I still have my 1/2-inch flat brush, guys. We have not changed brushes still. I'm gonna grab some of my Daffodil Yellow. I'm gonna grab some of my bright pink. And too, guys, you can see here I keep contaminating my paint puddles. If you guys, want to be a little more professional in your painting and you don't want to mix with your brush, I really recommend a palette knife. Michael's has great selections when it comes to palette knife. A plastic one or a metal one is great. That way you can kind of scoop paint and move it somewhere else in your palette and then just wipe it off with your napkin, and you don't end up contaminating your paint piles like I've kind of been doing here tonight, which is fine too. I mean, everybody has a different way of painting. There's no right or wrong way, depending on who you ask. But a palette knife is a really good option if that's something that's kind of bothering you. Okay, so this is a really close one. I'm gonna add a little more yellow to brighten it up.
Wendy said she's surprised the green covered so well.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie, I am too. A lot of times those, like I was kind of mentioning, the neon colors, a lot of times you have to do a second coat, but I think that one's got a good bit of white in it, and so that always helps with the coverage. I was kind of surprised.
Daffodil Yellow is always a good yellow.
It really is. Yeah. Yellow is kind of infamous for like being really transparent and not wanting to cover anything. But the Daffodil Yellow, that you're right, Emma, that probably is one of my favorite as far as coverage goes. Okay. So you've got our pretty tangerine color we just mixed. So I'm going to grab my 1/2-inch flat still, and this, just like we've been doing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to outline my green arch here. And I think we're gonna get away with one coat of him as well. We're getting pretty lucky tonight. I'm gonna move my canvas so it's more comfortable for my hand. Okay, all right, so that was pretty good too. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that one coat. It's nice and covered. Just gonna touch it up a little right there, and then I'm gonna clean my brush off. And now's the fun part. I always love, with any painting, kind of the final details. That's what makes it really fun, like the small details at the end, especially if we're using a paint pen. I just love paint pens. I think it's so fun to add details to your acrylic paintings. And that's what we're coming up on now. So now we're finally gonna put down our 1/2-inch brush for a little while anyway. And we're gonna grab our liner brush because we're gonna start sort of, I would say drawing out, but painting out, of course, this, our botanicals are part of our botanical bends. And we're gonna do these big white areas of leaves. And then of course, the final step will be adding the gold paint pen. So I've got my, keep shaking the table. I've got my number 2 liner, and I've got some white on my palette. So if you need some fresh Wicker white, go ahead and grab it. I'm gonna dip my brush in a little bit of water, and I'm gonna tap it off. I don't want it to be like dripping wet with water. I just want it to be wet. I'm gonna pick up some of my white paint and make myself a little pile of paint there and dip a little more water. And the reason we're doing this, I typically do not recommend watering down your paint. And the reason I don't recommend it is because it dilutes the color and it makes your paint less opaque. So we've talked about that a lot, opacity. And just in case you are unfamiliar with that term, that means whether you can see through your paint or not. Opaque means you cannot see through it. And then of course, transparent means you can see through it. So we want it to be opaque just because we never want to be able to see through our paint again, unless that's kind of what we're going for. There's lots of different styles of painting. But for that reason, I never recommend adding water unless you're doing some sort of fine detail work and you really need your paint to flow super well. So if you're using a liner brush like this and you really need your paint to flow like ink, that is really the only time that I would recommend adding a little bit of water. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a thin line going up across my pink arch. And a little tip about the liner brush, if you press down on it, you're going to get a much, here, I'll kind of show you here on my palette paper. So I have you can see how thin this brush is. If I barely put any pressure, I can get a super, super duper fine line. But if I press down, I can get a much thicker line. So there's a lot of different cool techniques you can do with a liner brush, depending on the amount of pressure you put. So we're going to put about a medium amount of pressure because you want that nice, you know, stem right here that we see in the final painting. We don't want it to be too thin because you want to be able to see it really well, but we don't want it to be thick either. So I'm going to do a nice medium amount of pressure, and I'm going to start about a third of the way down the left side and go right up to this big blue open area there. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so you have that nice line, and that's going to guide where those leaves are going to be. So we're going to start painting the leaves. So this is a very standard leaf shape. I turned my canvas so I can kind of get a better angle on it. We're going to do a big leaf right here at the end, right, like kind of on the line itself. So I'm going to pull down from the left, and I'm going to pull down from the right. Like I said, a very standard, when you think of leaves, this is what you think of. And then I'm going to do pairs of leaves from all the way down. They're going to start at the same spot and go out on the left and right sides. So I'm going to go on the left here. My leaf shape is kind of like a football or like an eye. And then on the right, I'm dipping my paint. Yep. On the left here.
It's not a real Michael's paint night unless you dip your sleeve in your palette.
Ain't that the truth? And then the right, I'm usually better about it. I don't know what I'm doing tonight. And then we're going to keep going down as many as you want to kind of fill up that space.
Must have been the time change.
I think honestly, the time change really has got me off today. I'm not going to lie. We lost an hour and it really, really did me in today.
I know, I can really feel it.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I've been needing lots of extra sleep. Okay, so now we have that kind of sketched out. Take as much time as you need to do that. But I'm gonna go ahead, this is kind of dry over here. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing, sort of coming up from the center of my green arch and branching out to the right. Exact same thing we just did. I don't know what I'm doing over here. I guess this is my painting sweatshirt now. Okay, so I'm gonna do my big leaf at the top on the stem itself. Oh, we take this off. And then we go all the way down the same way. A leaf on either side, sort of twins. You can see you can get really pretty fine lines with this. Okay, that's my last one. So now we're gonna go ahead and fill those in, kind of like a coloring book. You can either use this brush if you feel comfortable getting into those areas, or you can switch to like another smaller flat brush if you've got that. Let's see what we've got over here. Like this one here. Oh wait, let's grab this one. Like this one here is like a little number 10 flat. That'd be good for kind of filling in those areas. Whatever you feel more comfortable with, just sort of, we just want it all to be filled in with this white. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. If you have like a thicker round brush, that could be good too.
So you're adding water to your white, right, Jessie?
Yep, I'm adding just the tiniest bit of water, and that's because I'm using such a thin brush. I want to make sure my paint is really flowing. If I just grab the Wicker white without any water and I try to paint with it, it's kind of chunky and my brush doesn't flow very well. I don't have very good control over it. So I kind of want my paint to be almost like inky right now, especially when you're painting those really fine lines. And that's why I'm adding just a little bit of water as I go.
So Jessie, why do you choose to paint this section in particular with a liner brush as opposed to like a small flat brush?
I like it because I have good control over my liner brush because I've had lots of practice using a liner brush. But if you don't have a ton of practice using a liner brush, it may be kind of uncomfortable for you to try to fill in the color this way or the white. So that's why I kind of recommend if you have a smaller flat brush or maybe like a slightly thicker round brush even, it might be easier for you to control to fill in the color here. It's kind of just your preference. The liner brush works for me because like, remember when I showed you, you can get pretty nice thick lines. So I'm pressing down much harder than I did when I was painting my thin lines because I want to fill in that paint. I want to fill in that whole area with white. But again, if you don't have a ton of practice with the liner brush, I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend that. I might do, like I said, a smaller flat brush. Can I do it like a paint by number? So of course, if you're using a flat brush, depending on the size, you're going to want to kind of use it, use the chiseled edge of your brush. And what I mean by that is like the very tip of your bristles there. So you can kind of guide your brush and get in these small areas to fill in the white.
Cricket had a good question. She wants to know, if you do use a flat brush, do you still like to add water?
You know what? It's kind of up to you at that point. Since these are small areas, and honestly, we keep talking about like kind of the different reputations of all these different colors. White, for some reason, white acrylic paint tends to be a bit thicker than other colors. So if I was using something that was like a little bit thinner, I may not add water, but if I was using white, I might still add a little bit of water, to be honest, because for whatever reason, white just tends to be a heavier bodied color when it comes to acrylic paint. It's just kind of, again, one of those things that's like a little bit infamous for that. So I'm going to grab my small flat brush, this is number 10 flat, and do the other ones so you can see how I would fill those in. So I'm going to use the chiseled edge, so the sharp area, like the sharp tip of my bristles. And I still added a little bit of water. Again, we're not adding a ton of water. We're not trying to do watercolors here. You just want to add the tiniest bit so that it flows really well on your brush. If you're using a different brand of paint instead of FolkArt and it's not as thick and creamy as this is, you may not want to add any water at all. If it runs a little bit and it's a little more watery, you probably can just not thin it whatsoever.
Somebody asked if we ever watch other Michael's classes with other teachers.
Oh yeah, great question. Yeah, we do actually. I do anyway.
Yeah, it's fun to watch other teachers teach techniques with some trades that we don't get to practice often, like jewelry making.
Totally.
And, baking.
Baking. I love the Wilton classes. Those are a blast to watch. I also really love the Cricut classes. I find those so satisfying. I have a Cricut, but I'm not like very talented when it comes to the Cricut. We have one in our studio at Plaid. And I just think like people are like a whiz on those things. I'm always like so awed by the kind of crazy stuff people can whip out of those machines. Cricut, do you have a Cricut? Sorry, that was cheesy.
Ooh.
Sorry.
And Sam had a kind of question comment. If the white isn't thick enough, it won't cover another color very well.
Yeah. So if you were using, like I said, if you're not using FolkArt, especially if you have a different brand, it may not cover completely well and you'll have to do a second coat. So not the end of the world. You just want to dry it. I'm kind of going back and touching up some of the areas. You just want to dry it with your hair dryer and then go back and just do it one more time to get that full coverage you want. Or if you watered down your paint too much, for sure. So we did water it down a little, that can happen. So that's why, like I said, I don't usually like watering my paint because I don't want to make it transparent typically. But you know, we should do a second coat that way.
And I know you're wondering, Jessie, Cricut has a Cricut cameo.
Oh, okay, cool. We have the Cricut maker in the studio. So, okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna dry this and bring it to my favorite part, which is the paint pen. So I'm gonna go ahead and dry this now. Okay, so that dried pretty quick. And guys, I know I mentioned that we are here every Monday night, which a lot of you probably already know that. But we also do lots of crafting classes during the week with Michael. So our specific paint night lives are on Monday night with all of our instructors, where we paint a full canvas painting in just about an hour. But during the week, we do Mod Podge classes. We do like just different crafting classes and seasonal stuff. This Thursday, we have a brand new content creator named Emily, and she's gonna be teaching a really fun rainbow doormat just for Thanksgiving. Oh my gosh, for St. Patrick's Day. So, you know, it's on St. Patrick's Day, but it's still rainbow, so it kind of goes with the theme. But it's on our Instagram, and of course, it's on the Michael's class listing. So, I believe it's 4 p.m. Eastern time. Emily will be on Michael's teaching a really fun daytime craft. So make sure to check those out too.
Yeah. And I don't know, Jessie, maybe while you're adding the gold, your finishing touch, if you don't mind giving just a tiny little recap, some of the colors you mixed together.
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay, so we're going to get started on our gold, like Emma said. And just like I mentioned, this is our Craft Smart paint pen in gold. And this is like the chisel tip one. This is my favorite one to use, so I can get thick lines and thin lines, which I love. So the colors we mix, and so I'm going to start by something simple. I'm just going to go over around all our leaves. I'm just going to outline each of these white leaves you just painted. I won't do any of these like little botanicals yet. We're just going to outline the leaves. Okay, so the colors I mixed, the teal color, let's see if I can multitask now. The teal color was our true blue mixed with our lime green. So that was this color here. Then our purple was just straight purple. I think it was violet pansy. Yep, violet pansy. That was the color of our purple arch. And then our pinks were just right out of the kit too. Those were baby pink and bright pink. Just we didn't do any mixing for those. And then our little green arch down here, the bright green color was our lime green mixed with daffodil yellow. And then our sort of tangerine color here, like this like mango color, was our bright pink mixed with daffodil yellow. So hopefully that helps you out. Oh, and the background was wicker white, true blue, and lime green mixed together. I ended up switching pens. It feels like it's running out. Like I said, I love to use my paint pens when I'm crafting. So this one's run out of juice. Let's see this guy. And again, right now I'm just outlining, here we go, my leaves that we just painted. My first paint pen kind of ran out of juice on me because I use them a lot, but they really do last a very long time. That was just bad timing. I'm going to turn my painting around so I don't drag my hand through that and outline these guys.
Oh, and Hannah had a good question. They wanted to know where you could get the doormat for the next class that Emily's teaching this Thursday. Hannah, you can find a doormat like that on a place like Amazon or a local like home decor store.
For sure, yeah. You can get probably like Home Depot and stuff. I believe the one that Emily's using is from Amazon though. It's just a plain, like, I don't even know what that material is called, that like naturally fibered front doormat. And she'll give you some tips because those can be kind of pesky to paint on because they're so textured. So she's got a lot of really good tips for that. She's going to share with you on Thursday afternoon. Okay, guys. So all I did was I outlined my leaves there. You can see a shiny there. Adds a really fun little detail. Now I'm going to show you how I drew this little guy here. So all we did is I'm going to draw a little almost S shape starting here. And I just kind of added the botanicals to fill in some of like the open gaps. So the areas we didn't have the details over our painting. So I'm going to do a little squiggle here. I'm going to go kind of on the bottom left and then squiggle up to the right. How did I get my camera moved? There you go. Okay, so here we go. And then we're going to do kind of similar to the way we do these big white ones. I'm going to do a leaf up top and then a leaf on either side going down. We're just not going to fill them in this time. See, it's much faster with the paint pen. But you guys, if you don't have the paint pen, do not stress. You can totally use FolkArt Metallic or FolkArt Treasure Gold with your little liner brush, and you'll get the same effect. Now I'm just going to add little veins to them for a little bit of extra detail. Super simple. You see that? Look how shiny that is. It's like a mirror. And now finally, guys, this is the last step of our painting. I'll bring this down so you can see. I'm going to add this little leaf guy up here. So I'm going to do a little squiggly line coming down. He's a little different. And then I'm going to add a leaf right here, just like we did. He's kind of skinnier, and fill it in. And then I'm going to do a leaf coming out of the left side. He's kind of squiggly. It's kind of just like doodling. This is why it's my favorite part, because I was definitely a doodler when I was in school.
You know.
Elementary school through college, you know, all my art history papers, like all my notes, they were just all covered in doodles. That's probably why this is my favorite part of the painting, is adding these fun elements at the end. But there you go, guys. You can get really creative with these botanical elements. They're a lot of fun to do. And that is how you paint our botanical bends. So guys, I hope you had so much fun. I'm so glad you joined us tonight. If it was your first time, you know, some of you were new, welcome. If it was you were returning, like Cricut and some of our regulars, we're so happy you came to join us again tonight. Next week, it's going to be Kirsten Jones, and that class is posted. So next Monday at 8 p.m., she'll be painting a really, really fun and sort of funky bouquet of flowers. So she's got the palette knife, and she's got lots of patterns in there. It's very Kirsten. So if you're a follower of Kirsten Jones, you're going to really love that painting. And that's already posted on the Michaels website. So if you want to sign up for that, we'd love to see you there. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Guys.